Hey viewers, today I'm taking an e-bike ride. It's a beautiful day. It's Friday, October 27th, 2023. We're here in Newcastle, Pennsylvania at Oak Park Cemetery. And I want to tell the story about the Doodlebug disaster. I watched a YouTube video about the incident by the channel Fascinating Horror. At the end it showed a memorial that listed all the victims and where they were from. One victim was from Newcastle, Pennsylvania. And today we're going to visit his grave, and I'll talk about what I was able to find out about his life. But first I want to tell the story of the Doodlebug disaster. 83 years ago, on July 31st, 1940, there was a train disaster near Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio. A Doodlebug number 4648, which is a self-propelled passenger rail car, similar to a trolley, powered by a gasoline engine, was operating on the Akron to Hudson line with a crew of 3 and 43 passengers. It departed Hudson, Ohio at 5:49 p.m. on its 13-mile run south to Akron, Ohio. At the same time, a mixed freight train traveling from Columbus, Ohio to Cleveland, Ohio, with 73 cars, left Akron heading north on the same single-track line. The Doodlebug had orders to pull into a siding at Silver Lake in order to allow the freight train to pass. But within 10 minutes of departure, disaster struck. The engineer of the Doodlebug, Thomas L. Murtaugh, passed by the siding without stopping, and within a quarter of a mile, the Doodlebug and freight train collided head-on. Seeing the impending doom, the Doodlebug's engineer, Thomas L. Murtaugh, the conductor, H.B. Schaefer, and the brakeman, Todd Wan, jumped clear. Upon impact, the Doodlebug was pushed backwards over 500 feet, and the lead locomotive of the freight train buried itself 12 feet into the Doodlebug's interior. All passengers, seats, luggage, etc. were thrown to the front of the Doodlebug. The Doodlebug's 350-gallon fuel tank, gasoline, was below the passenger compartment floor. It was torn open, showering the car in gasoline, which quickly ignited. Any survivors of the impact were trapped and would be killed in the fire. There were no survivors among the passengers. The 3 crew members were all hospitalized with moderate to severe injuries. The crash investigation that followed determined that the engineer, Thomas Murtaugh, was likely suffering from carbon monoxide poisoning, and this is what caused him to pass the siding. I've had severe carbon monoxide poisoning myself to the point of needing to be in a hyperbaric chamber. And it's no joke. I can see how it would cause this crash. You know, it clouds your judgment. You can't breathe. You feel like you're drowning. It's just terrible. And here we are at his grave. Ernest Clive Durbin. I used findagrave.com to find out where he was laid to rest, and it turned out he's in the same cemetery as my father and some other family members. Seeing the picture of his stone, I knew I'd seen it before. I often wander around the cemetery, pondering the lives of the people laid to rest here. I did some research and found out a little bit about his life. His name is Ernest Clive Durbin. He was born in Morris Township, Knox County, Ohio, on July 24th, 1883. He married Nellie Ray Van Horn in 1917. They resided at 1302 Highland Avenue in Newcastle, Pennsylvania. In 1927, he's listed as working for the Pennsylvania Railroad, and his occupation in 1928 is listed as engineer. Nellie was listed as a tailoress at Hodgkinson and Company in 1911. Nellie's on the right, Ernest is on the left. His wife Nellie passed away at home on March 26, 1926, at age 41 after an illness of complications. Her funeral was at home. They had no children as far as I can find. Nellie was born in Ellsworth County, Kansas, and her family came to Newcastle when she was 6 years old. At the time of Nellie's passing, her parents lived on Croton Avenue here in Newcastle, very close to where I live. I could find out more about Nellie because she lived in Newcastle for 35 years. And I can't find anything about Ernest prior to 1900. The story brought these two headstones to life for me. Even though I could only discover the bare minimum about his life, I decided to make this video to help put a life with one victim of the Doodlebug disaster. Sometimes when you see a memorial, they're just a name, and I wanted to put a life to that name. And that was a story about the Doodlebug disaster, and one of the victims, Ernest C. Durbin, and his wife, Nellie. She wasn't a victim of the Doodlebug disaster, of course, but I wanted to tell his story, and she was a part of his story. You know, I often wander around the cemeteries when I'm visiting. You know, every one of these people had a life, they had a family, they had a story. And often, you know, it's the only thing we know about them is what's on their memorial stone. And like I said before, researching this story and telling this story, I was able to put a life to these two memorial stones. You know, maybe just a brief story about them, but all these years later, and they're known to me. I hope you enjoyed it. I know it's been a year since I put a video out on this channel. And I'm hoping, you know, coming into the spring, and then the summer of next year, I'll be able to get some more riding in. I didn't get a chance to do a whole lot of riding this year. The last time I rode was on Mother's Day, and I had a crash and I had some road rash on my leg. It was pretty severe. So I laid off riding for a little bit, and then I got really busy with work. And then the heat set in. Boy, was it hot this summer. So I wasn't looking forward to finishing work and jumping on the bike. And days I had off, I wasn't interested in riding in the heat. I believe I've only rode about 180 miles this year, which isn't a whole lot. It's a lot less than I expected to ride. I had plans of putting 500 or 600 miles on this bike this year. And I haven't done much to it. I did put a camera on the back. It's a Brave 7 LE. It's the new version that accepts an external microphone. I'm filming this now on the Brave 6 Plus using an external microphone. Of course, I have my handlebar mounted Brave 7 LE. It's the older version. But I hope you enjoyed. I know it's close to Halloween. This wasn't really a ghost story. It's just a story about 2 lives who are laid to rest here. And I'll hopefully put out a video soon and see y'all later.